The security of the UK's energy supplies seems a long way from the concerns of residents of the picturesque town of Ryedale and the surrounding villages. However, this reality has been brought into sharp focus with the announcement that the gas extraction company, Moreland Energy, has found a large quantity of natural gas at Ebbston near the Dalby Forest. Successful exploration revealed there's at least 20 years' worth of gas supply to be tapped from this discrete well site. The current glut of gas in the UK is forecast to become a shortage by 2013 to 2014, placing more reliance on imported gas from around the world. Much of this supply comes from unstable sources that could use energy as a political weapon. In the government's annual energy statement, published on the 27th of July this year, they put forward a 32-point plan embracing the whole of the energy sector. In it, they stated the UK needs to promote more reliable supply of energy, particularly gas. And it went on to say, the UK's own indigenous supply of oil and gas remains important. We must maximise economic production while applying effective environmental and safety regulations. It makes common sense that we all start making more of our homegrown energy supplies. After all, we don't want the lights going out. But will this facility actually make any difference in the overall scheme of Britain's energy supplies? Once the gas is extracted, it needs to be processed before being fed to the national grid or put into storage. And here, outside Ryedale, is where the proposed location of that facility will be. Over there, behind that tree-lined old railway embankment. Some local residents have expressed concerns about this facility and the impact it's going to have on the town and the surrounding popular tourist destination. So earlier on today, I spoke to some representatives from Moreland Energy and I put those concerns to them. As Chief Executive of Moreland Energy, you've talked a lot about the energy that's going to be produced using this facility, and you've said the importance really in this country of starting to make our own and use our own. What do you think this facility is going to bring to that overall UK scheme?
This particular facility will process about 40 million cubic feet of gas. Now, what does that mean? The energy that we would put into the grid after 3 days' production would be similar in the energy demand of about 1,400 homes. This area that is affected between Thornton on my one side and on the other, say Ebbston, has about 1,350 homes. And so over a year, we would produce energy of 100 times the requirements of homes of that size.
Now, what precautions, what things are you going to do to make sure that this isn't a blot on the landscape?
Well, this particular site that we have chosen, which is unique in its features, because on the one side it has natural screening of a disused embankment with existing flora on it and providing a height of some 20 metres, keeps it well outside the sight of most of the area. We tested this site, the visibility, by a helium-filled balloon measuring the same height that the highest structure on our site will be, 15 metres, which is the flare stack. And we photographed this particular blimp, the balloon, from various directions, and it is hardly visible. Once we have put in place the natural screening that we propose, I think the whole issue about its effect on the environment in terms of vision is going to be a non-issue.
Now, I know a lot of local residents are quite surprised about the location of this site because the actual sort of well is 5 miles away near Ebbston. So why is the actual plant going to be here?
Well, as I said, this particular site is unique. Between where our well site is in Ebbston, you're some 5 miles away, and where we need to put the gas into the network, which is just 200 metres away, this is the only site that provides natural screening and is of the right size that we require for a facility, and also sufficiently away from the town or the village where it can be seen. I mean, it really has unique facilities, this site.
But surely, because of the distance involved, there is going to be a lot of disruption with the laying of the pipes.
Yes, there will be, absolutely. There will be disturbance. For local residents, that we disturbed when we have to cross roads. We will try and limit that disturbance as best we can, using techniques of directional drilling underground. And most of the pipe laying, in any case, is across farmland, so it's hardly going to be too disruptive for everybody.
There's a lot of talk about sour gas. You know, and you've said that this isn't, but what would you say to campaigners who disagree?
Sour gas is natural gas that contains hydrogen sulfide, H2S. All the gas in the area, in the Ryedale, that has been produced since the 1960s contains H2S and is therefore sour gas. Indeed, most of the gas production today around the globe is sour gas production. The natural gas that will be delivered to this facility from our well site in Ebbston, whilst it is, strictly speaking, sour gas, it'll be processed here in a closed system. So it's not exposed to the atmosphere and it's not burnt for electricity generation. And so there's no opportunity for odours or other toxic fumes to be put into the atmosphere.
What do you say to people who say that the noise is going to ruin the tranquility of the countryside?
The design of this site has been to eliminate noise as much as possible. The noisy equipment, which generally are compressors, will be housed in acoustic-friendly structures. And so the total noise output of the facility comes well within the strict limits that are imposed for facilities of this nature and that we have to adhere to.
So what are the benefits for the local economy here?
Our independent consultants, Bowles Green, estimate that over the lifetime of the plant, some £10 million will be contributed to the local economy. Personally, I think that's on the low side, because what it doesn't include are the services that get provided in the normal course of events to operations of this nature, and also the further work that we will undertake, both in exploration, well drilling, well workovers, etc., which brings lots of people of different skills into the area to do those services. And so the monies that will be contributed by those activities, I believe, is well in excess of 10 million.
There's been talk of an apprenticeship scheme in the future. How's that going to work?
If we get permission to proceed, then we would like to engage very quickly with government as well as with an academic institution in the area to design an appropriate apprenticeship scheme whereby youngsters can get on-the-job training in connection with not only perhaps gas processing, but in the wider context of the oil and gas sector and what's required in plants of this nature.
Fergus, you're head of engineering for this development. How can you convince us, really, that it's safe? You're using a lot of flammable materials, gas. How safe is safe?
Safety is absolutely critical to everything we do here. We will design the facility to very exacting standards laid down by both UK and international law, and we'll be operating to those standards or better. All of the people that operate here will be highly trained. So safety is something that we take very seriously and will be paramount in our planning.
Now, Fergus, while the site is in operation, isn't there a worry about dangerous emissions?
This is a closed system, so the gas will travel all the way through from the wellhead, through a pipeline to the facility where it's treated, and then out to the national grid. There's no point at which it reaches the atmosphere.
You're going to be running this site 24/7, every day of the year. You're going to have bright lights. Now, are those bright lights going to be seen from everywhere all night?
Well, clearly we'll operate this plant 365 days a year, day and night, but that doesn't mean that we need glaring lights on all the time. We'll have low-level lighting for safety reasons around walkways and accesses, but that's all we'll have, so it won't be seen from the surrounding area.
Paul, you're the consultant ecologist for this project. How did you come on board and what is it you do?
Well, as ecologists, we get involved very early on in developments. We undertake surveys for species and habitats, and we work with the developer to, first of all, minimise any impacts on those through finessing the development, if you like, moving the pipeline, altering the working practices that may be in the design. And as you can see here, there have previous gas lines gone through this land above us, and within 2-3 years the soils are put back, the crops are put back, the hedgerows are replanted, and you wouldn't know there'd been gas lines through there.
So is it imperative to have somebody like you on board a project like this?
I mean, these days wildlife legislation and public's perception and interest is heightened, and you just would not get away without having all these measures in place.
There's a number of protected species around this site, this development. How are you going to go about protecting them?
Yes, we've identified 3 or 4 protected species within the vicinity of the development, although not within the development itself. And we work with the statutory agencies and the Wildlife Trust to develop mitigation schemes to either avoid or reduce any impacts to a minimum.
So tell me something about this conservation area that's being planned.
Part of developments, particularly these days with modern legislation, developments have got to show an overall gain in biodiversity. So on this scheme here, we're actually proposing to create a calcareous grassland for nature conservation benefit.
You're working in consultation with the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust. How did that come about and how's it going to work?
OK, well, the Wildlife Trust obviously has the local interest at heart, and they also have a lot of local knowledge. And so the idea is we develop the calcareous grassland and the management of the adjacent habitats with them, with a view that they may well take on in the longer term overseeing and managing some of these habitats for the benefit of wildlife.
The true significance of the Ryedale Gas Project is the boost it will bring to the UK's energy production, and that's good for all of us. But as you might say, we know we need them, just not where I live. As you've seen and heard, Moorland Energy is well aware of local residents' concern and are doing their best to allay these fears. They say there'll be no whiffy smells and the facility itself will be well screened behind an embankment. The project will inject money into the local economy, and in the long term it will provide employment as well as training opportunities for engineering apprentices. And in times like these, that's something that every community needs.